It was early spring when I decided to go camping deep in the forest with my dog, Duke. Duke was a young blue heeler, full of energy, curious about everything, and still learning how to behave on long hikes. Because of that, I always chose remote trails where we wouldn't run into other people. This particular trail was different. It was rarely visited, buried deep in the woods, and so isolated that it felt like the rest of the world had simply disappeared. After a 2-hour hike, we found a small clearing and set up camp. The day went smoothly. Duke explored the area, sniffing every tree and bush he could find, while I relaxed and enjoyed the silence. As night fell, I climbed into the tent, exhausted from the hike. Duke curled up beside me. At first, everything seemed normal, but a few hours after sunset, I woke up. Duke was moving around inside the tent. Not excited, not playful, nervous. He kept shifting, whining quietly, and staring toward the tent wall. Something had him worried. Thinking he just needed to go outside, I unzipped the tent and stepped out with him. But Duke didn't go anywhere. Instead, he slowly walked around the campsite. Again, and again, and again. Every few seconds he would stop, stare into the darkness, then continue circling as if he were guarding us from something I couldn't see. I scanned the forest with my flashlight. Nothing. No movement. No sounds. Just darkness. After nearly half an hour, I convinced him to come back into the tent. But he never relaxed. The entire night he remained awake, watching, listening, waiting. The next morning I felt exhausted. When we stepped outside, Duke immediately started circling the campsite again. That's when I noticed something strange. There were marks in the dirt around our camp. At first, I thought they might be footprints, but they weren't normal footprints. They looked as if someone had dragged their feet through the soil, leaving long distorted trails instead of clear steps. And they were everywhere, surrounding the campsite. A chill ran through me. I couldn't remember seeing those marks when we arrived. But I also couldn't prove they weren't mine. Trying not to overthink it, I made breakfast and waited for the sun to fully rise. Later, Duke and I wandered into the woods for a short walk. There weren't any trails nearby, so we simply moved between the trees. A few minutes in, Duke suddenly caught a scent. His entire body changed. His ears stood up. His tail stiffened, and he began moving quickly through the forest. He followed whatever he smelled for several minutes before abruptly stopping near a tree. Then he started searching the ground in confusion, as if the scent had suddenly vanished. Eventually, I called him back. Neither of us knew it then, but that strange feeling was only beginning. The rest of the day felt wrong. The forest had become unnaturally quiet. No birds, no insects, nothing. And no matter where I looked, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. Duke seemed to feel it too. He refused to relax. He kept staring into the woods, watching, waiting. As evening arrived, I could tell he was exhausted. He had been on alert for nearly 24 hours. I started a campfire and tried to get him to rest. For a while, everything seemed calm. The fire crackled softly. The darkness surrounded the clearing, and the forest remained silent. Then, around 10 o'clock that night, Duke suddenly lifted his head. His eyes locked onto something. Before I could ask what was wrong, a stick landed in the middle of the campsite. I froze. I looked up into the trees. Nothing. No branches above us could have dropped it. Trying to stay calm, I picked up the stick and looked around. The darkness stared back. Then, another stick came flying out of the woods. This one landed directly in front of me. Someone had thrown it. My heart immediately started pounding. Duke stepped out of the tent. The moment he did, he became completely focused on something hidden in the darkness. I couldn't see anything, but Duke could. "Hello?" I shouted. "Who's out there?" No answer. Only silence. I pulled my knife from my pocket. The fear was becoming impossible to ignore. Seconds passed. Then Duke exploded. He barked, growled, snarled. His eyes fixed on something above us. Slowly, I followed his gaze upward. And that's when I saw it. person, halfway up a tree, watching us, completely motionless, tall, thin, silent, just staring down at us through the darkness. For a moment I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The figure remained perfectly still, almost as if it believed we couldn't see it. Then instinct finally took over. I grabbed my backpack, took hold of Duke's collar, and slowly backed away toward the trail. The figure never moved, not once. It simply watched. Then, just as we reached the trail, thump, a heavy sound echoed through the forest. The person had jumped from the tree. A second later, I heard leaves crunching rapidly, running toward our campsite. I looked back, and there he was, standing in the glow of the campfire, watching us, not speaking, not moving, just staring. That was enough. I turned and ran. Duke stayed right beside me as we sprinted through the darkness. Neither of us looked back again. Eventually, we reached the trailhead and escaped. To this day, I have no idea who that person was. I don't know why he was there, and I don't know what he wanted. But one thing still haunts me. The way he behaved didn't feel human. Felt like something wild. Something that had been living in those woods for a very long time. And sometimes, I wonder what would have happened if Duke hadn't been there to warn me. Because deep down, I don't think that person was finished with us.